Hello and welcome to your Wednesday evening weirding session. I'm your host, C. Savory, creator of Fractal Praxis. I am doing well today. However, yesterday, I experienced a climax of grief that burst into my consciousness like a thunderstorm. I was grieving a special kind of community that I'll be talking about in today's episode. A community I never dreamed was possible. Even as big of a dreamer and vision holder as I am, there are still some things my mind tries to protect my body or heart from wanting. But the want broke through my stagnancy like a crashing cymbal. Because now I see how forging disciplined, loving, vibrant communities is a necessity for our survival and our liberation. Why are these called weirding sessions? Well, because the times we're in are getting weirder and weirder, going into uncharted territory. And I think maybe some part of this is a good thing. All my life, I have loved when I could be a catalyst for people to experience something beyond their normal. This was a big part of my life as a filmmaker. I used to love messing with genres and messing with people's expectations of what they thought was going to happen next in the narrative. When you're exposed to something that surprises you and startles you, it raises your awareness, which is a beautiful thing. Now, you then might feel fear quickly after that. But what I hope you'll also notice is the opportunity created by the raised awareness. The beauty and the opportunity in being challenged, being stretched, being at a generative edge, seeing the world through different eyes for a moment, expanding your own perspective. Being a person and being a people who embrace diversity and who make space for it within ourselves, carving the space out from the shape of our ego if need be. We are a people who delight in the surprise of coming across something new to relate with, something new to learn. We have a fundamentally secure relationship to reality, to existence. But that, in and of itself, is weird. It's not the normal. I'm weird. Weird is actually sometimes my preferred language for describing my autistic type behaviors and experiences. Because although it's different, I think weird is nothing to be afraid of. I've always felt belonging in queer communities. My queerness includes my experience of gender, but primarily my experience of this irreconcilable differentness in how I am and how I process the world. I have always adored and followed and sought out relationships with people who are living their lives authentically, courageously, and with so much heart. Queer people are my people. I will stand with them in all things. These are my people who I live and love with and who have had major influences on me socially, creatively, emotionally, philosophically, and politically. We deserve to live how we want. Our ancestors fought for our freedoms. No one else should get to control that for us, and we should get to follow our deepest desires for becoming our truest selves to their fruition. So, I'm weird as in autistic, as in kind of off socially, and maybe off-putting at times. And yes, I've gotten that feedback across my entire life about my affect, my tone, or maybe off-putting comments that I will make. But I'm also weird, as in, doesn't give a duck. Let's have fun, right? I don't care about superficial concerns. I'm here to live life in full animation and full color. And finally, I'm ready to meet you. I want you to get to know me more and get to know my work. In order to do that, it's quite possible that you're going to have to get a little weird with me. I'm weird, like never fit in. And this has sad roots in childhood trauma, specifically lack of attunement and socializing. The household I grew up in is difficult to describe. There was lots of love and lots of suppression manifesting as detachment. Two neurodivergent parents, neglect and abuse. My developing brain was damaged growing up in that environment. And once I got to school, I was hyper interested in things, people around me, and I was hypersensitive, and I was super smart. So later in school, I would excel by a combination of being lucky with a strong intellect and also having an intense inner drive to excel, to flee into success, flight towards success, to escape my circumstance of feeling utterly not belonging and not wanted and even completely alienated. This was unconscious, of course. This is a flight response. Like a person on the autism spectrum, I had to memorize what others around me found acceptable socially and learned the hard way more often than not. I was bullied in my home as a young child, and so then I would go to school and bully others, transferring the electric charge, this charge that I felt dominating and stressing my body all the time. I was just cycling it. It would never resolve, of course. I didn't know that that was weird until I was older and began to understand things myself and have more autonomy. I didn't know there were options. I didn't imagine that there was this entire piece of my life missing. Attunement, attachment, connection. And I would spend my entire adult life, even as a young adult, really as soon as I was gaining autonomy, reclaiming and recovering this. All I knew was it never really felt like I fit in, no matter what environment I was in. Later in life, this would give me the courage of scamouflage, as we anarchists would call it, where I could just show up in a kind of receptive way to social environments that I had no business being in. But that's because I always felt like I was masking and always felt like a chameleon. So, this kind of avoidant attachment situation made it so I would have these really compelling personal goals for myself. And I would also have these spiritual experiences that would at times radically derail my sense of what my life meant and what I was doing with my life and where I was going. And so that would take me in a new direction, which resulted in losing various friend groups along the way. Avoidant. I was always weird because I was also always anti-conformist, defiant. I internalized this idea that the world was not there for me. And so I would have to take a stand in everything that I did. In high school in particular, I really embraced an anti-conformist aesthetic and a political activist one as well, which is something I'll go into more in later episodes. But from the youngest age, I just always felt like there wasn't room for me to exist. I was too successful at certain things, making others uncomfortable or jealous. I was always too girl, too female for my ambition and intellect. I was always too, frankly, dysfunctional, messed up to socialize properly or build relationships. And so I'm not easily categorized or collapsed into an idea. That in and of itself is what makes people uncomfortable. I contain multitudes, as I know you do too. We do. We contain multitudes. I hope you know that to contain multitudes within is to expand yourself, making space for accepting, being curious about, and understanding and integrating difference without in your environment. And I hope you know that in order to contain multitudes, you must hold on to all of who and what you truly are, defending it, as opposed to, shaving off the edges and fitting into smaller boxes that others have prescribed for you. You must know and inhabit the full complex truth of who you are to contain multitudes. And my friends, it is our duty and necessity right now to build a culture that mirrors this containing of multitudes, a culture that has enormous tolerance for complexity and for diversity. This is not a given thing. It is enculturated. We have to craft and develop the cultures that enable that. I don't know how we'll get there, but I know that I want to be a voice in this movement and a part of this movement. The culture I promote through Fractal Praxis is one of adapting ourselves to truth, to the truth. The fractal pattern that I claim is at the center of life, that is, life in all of its forms, at all of its scales, expresses this. That pattern's at the center of Fractal Praxis, and it is, in other words, a truth of our existence, I claim. It's my claim of what the truth is. And that Fractal Praxis, the way of living, it's about living in ways that do the most with the truth of our circumstances in every way. We stretch ourselves to be able to do more with the truth. We try to be our best and most whole selves with the most capacity we have at every level of our behavior, our belief systems, our social and political praxis, our interactions with the world. It looks like harmony at every level, cooperation at the macro level, sensitivity and honoring and sense-making at the micro level. It takes discipline to live a life like that, to be able to access those benefits. It takes stretching, training, developing ourselves to be with more truth. And in this past week, I met this incredible loneliness that had been building up inside of me. I have such heartbreak. Not only that I don't have the community right now to lean into and to feel is with me in this moment of truth bearers and truth seekers, but this context in which the so-called political leader of the world right now has built his entire life and his entire political angle on lying and on promoting lies, on building false worlds with lies and then coercing others into those crappier worlds. That is heartbreaking. The attempt to bypass and steamroll and crush diversity, the diversity that actually makes us strong, adaptive, resilient. So I am heartbroken at the failure of my way, Fractal Praxis, to have done more to create truth-loving culture and truth-adapting people. But here we are, and it's never been more important. So I will tell you what I want now. I want to be a part of building cultures that are resilient, creative, and frankly life-giving, because they're concerned with the truth. And they're organizing our energy, our labor, our sacred labor as human beings to harvesting as much truth as we can from our experiences, from existence, and adapting ourselves to that truth through our practices, norms, lifestyles, belief systems, and yes, societies and economies. We all need so much more love. And the social contract used to meet some of those needs. But today, the political system is invalidating itself by actively harming and damaging all kinds of people in all kinds of circumstances. These undermining times, these self-undermining times, are typical of the end of a civilization. But that means that a new way of organizing ourselves has to break through right now. And I pray it is one that doesn't consider truth an enemy, but considers truth food, a necessity from which to build our sense of self, from which to build our political and social and economic behaviors, from which to build a more resilient, harmonious, ecological world. There is a way, as obscured as this way may be today. There is a way, and I don't want to be alone walking down that path. So there are moments where I feel like I am dying for support in a world I have spent my entire life trying to become a better, more whole person for, so that I could love and serve you better. That is such a warped situation, extremely imbalanced. And so, with a crisis like yesterday's grief, the pendulum is now about to swing the other way. Whatever wisdom and goodness I have deliberately cultivated is for you to feed yourselves with. Please feed, and please process what I offer into something that you can more easily digest. Yes, it might take some processing, especially at this very raw stage. And then please turn around and nourish the soil that you fed from. Please let me know, hey, I'm in community with you. I want to be a part of this world you're talking about, of living and loving the truth to our fullest as individuals and as community. Please join the mailing list. Invite others to join. Give funds. Become a member. Because I am drowning in my surplus. I just want you to let me know you're ready to receive from the wisdom I've earned and this capacity to love you that I have earned. These are earned capacities, and they are worth sharing. And please share your surplus with me if you get something valuable from my work. In closing, I'm C. I live in Golden, Colorado, and I created the framework known as Fractal Praxis. I have a very big heart and a very big mind. I also have developmental delays that you will probably perceive. You will probably pick up on them in my affect or in certain moments of emotional or social dysregulation in group settings. These are deficits, and they're also gifts, because the wound is where the light shines from, after all. Finally, I am free from shame about this. So finally, I can acknowledge to myself my limitations, and I can acknowledge to you my limitations. And finally, I can acknowledge to myself my dream of really integral, profound, inspiring, resilient community. And I can say, I want that, and I have the capacity for that. So, what I offer, my way of being, my understanding, my gifts, as strange as they may seem, may it be resonant. One thing I've learned before I even knew about attachment or trauma, before I even really grappled with my neurodivergence, one thing I learned to survive and thrive in this world is how to resonate. How to resonate. I think I learned this young in church choir, how to resonate, how to harmonize. And I used my capacity to deeply empathize with and understand people to resonate between us and to build my relationships that way over the years. I also resonate through art forms like spoken word, poetry, dance, song, ritual spaces, filmmaking. So let's resonate together. My early trauma sculpted me, and now I'm free from shame about who I've become. So please know that I have limits in conforming to what you might think of as normative interaction. And the combination of me seeming like I have easy success in certain realms does not translate to all realms of my life. So please don't project total success onto me. That's not the case. Let's offer nuance to one another's existence. Let's make space for one another. Could your stories about me and mine about you use some updating? Could there be more space for my nuance and more space for yours in this world? Could we stretch to receive each other as whole people, no matter how much space that wholeness takes up? Thank you so much for bearing with me and bearing witness to me. You alchemize my karma when you receive me like this. Now is the time in our ritual space where we pass the proverbial basket, which I don't have here today, but whatever. If you would like to make a donation to support the work of Fractal Praxis, please do so using the link in the description below, or consider becoming a member. Merry meet and merry part, and merry meet again. Please accept my invitation to connect.